Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Is my screen visible to everyone?
No, sir, not yet.
Now is it visible? Oh, so we are starting with Spring MVC. Okay, Spring MVC is it's an acronym for Model View Controller. Model View and Controller. So now we will start with the front end part also now. So you have done servlet GSP, right? So you will have a fair idea of servlet GSP. So an application is split into two parts, front end and back end. Front end is the part of the application with which the client interacts, and back end is the processing of that data. And if it requires connectivity with the database, then the back end will interact with the database. The front end does not interact with the database directly. So we have this architecture normally. This is the database. Okay. So front end is that part of the application which the client will interact. Okay. So we call it client side. So let's say now I want to register a student, okay, and I want to accept his roll number, name and percentage, and I will register him. So I'll have three text boxes, and then I'll give a button. So I'll give some labels over here: roll number, student name, percentage, blah blah, whatever you want to give, and then you click on this register. So as the user clicks on register, the data from this client side or the front end will be sent to the back end, right? So this we call as request. So request is sent to the backend. So backend will read this data. So whatever this data has been there created, let's say the data has been 18. So the user enters 18 Virat and 78.5. Okay. So this data will be created into an object. An object will be made out of this data. Let's say I use the hexagon as a shape for an object. So roll number 18, S name Virat, percentage 78.5. So from this data an object will be created, and this object will be sent to the backend. So this will be sent to the backend. Data will be converted into an object format, and the object will be sent to the backend. Now this backend is a very vast jungle. Lots of layers are there over here. Lots of packages are there. Lots of layers are there. Hundreds and thousands of classes are there. Okay. So blah 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 whatever. So like it's like when you go to a restaurant or when you go to a college. Let's say you go to MIT college. Okay, you want to take admission over there. So MIT is a vast institute, right? There are many colleges over there, many buildings, many departments. Let's say you want to inquire for MCA. What they have done is they have kept a may I help you desk at the entrance. Okay, which we call at the receptionist. What we call them as is at the reception. Okay, so whatever people who will come to MIT will enter this backend. Into this backend we call it as the MIT campus. Okay, so at the entrance, what they have kept receptionist, and the receptionist has the information about which course is being offered in which building. So whatever is over here, the rest of the entire information is there with the receptionist. So this request will first come to the receptionist, right? So this receptionist we call as controller in the backend. So who is the controller? It is the one which will receive the request. Okay. Controller will not fulfill the request. Controller will just receive the request. It is like the waiter. Let's take example of a restaurant. So you enter a restaurant. First person who you interact is the waiter. Okay. So whatever services will be offered to you will be offered to you by the waiter. So whatever order you will give to the waiter. Now, will this waiter prepare this order by himself? They have a vast kitchen, okay? And if the kitchen needs some raw material, they have a storeroom. So there are lots of chef. Okay, so this is a five-star hotel, let's say. So there are hundreds of chef or people working in the kitchen, and lots of tons of food kept in the storeroom if they want to prepare this. But your single point of contact, your what? Okay, single point of contact. Let's call it Spock. Let's call it what? Spock. So for you, who is a single point of contact? So if you want to have lemonade, and so who will you place the order that please get me some lemonade? Waiter. Now will that waiter go and prepare it himself? He will give it to the kitchen, right? The kitchen needs some sugar or some lemons. From where will they get it? From the storeroom. Okay. The kitchen might have a sufficient quantity with them, but if some extra is needed, or if they run out of stock, they will get it from here, right? Okay. Once that lemonade is prepared, the kitchen will give it to the, and the waiter will give it to us. Okay. So this, let's say you can think of the front end as the customer, the client. So the client will give request to the controller, and controller will get this data work done. Okay. Controller himself does not do the business logic. Okay. So the business logic is applied inside. Okay. And then once the logic is complete, they give it to the controller, and the controller gives it back to us. Okay. So we will take the request and the response from the controller. Am I understood? So this green color is the request and the red color is the response. Okay, and whatever response it wants to give you. So maybe it'll give you a response in the form of an object saying, okay, so whatever response it might generate, saying like message, it might give you a message that record inserted. It might give you a HTTP status code. You know what is 400? What is 400? You know what is 404? Yeah, that is called a HTTP status code. Page not found, right? So like this, when you have successfully created, then that time the status code is 401. So the front end team can then take this object, and depending on the status code, they can reflect the message. Status code 401. And is it success or not success? So it might give you an object like this, having how many attributes? If I zoom it for you all, you can look it over here. Okay, so that object might have something like this. So what is that object having? So when we had set the request, what were the keys and the value in the request object? And when you have got the response, what are the keys? So they will put it into an object and they will return you the object, right? Am I understood? So here also one object is returned in response, right? So all the request and response are dealing in the form of the currencies objects, right? So now this gives us what is MVC. So these objects mean there might be some classes, right? So these classes which are there, so we might have a class. So now we have two classes over here, right? So the first class might be response, whatever we can say. Okay. So you can make a class and you can give it. So the first class might be student class, right? And normally how we make student class, you can make that roll number, name, percentage, constructor, setter, getters, blah blah blah. The second class might be API response, whatever you want to give the class name, right? So these classes in which we send the data and receive the data, they are called as model. What are they called as? M is covered. So what are the model classes? Yes, perfect. View is called as the client side, which the customer will see. What is this? This is the view, right? So you can, that can be a JSP or a HTML page. So that we know how to design right now. We have done, and some amount of HTML, CSS, Java, CSS. So we'll use this. That is called as the view. And for the backend part, the single point of contact is called as the. So the client has to just give the data to the controller and forget about it. It is the controller's job to get the data done, the job done. Controller controller single responsibility just to act as a mediator between the client and the server, but it is a part of the server. So for the client, the server is who's the server? For me, the restaurant is the waiter, right? If the waiter gives me good service, I will say good restaurant. I will give 5-star rating. The waiter misbehaves with me, I will give 1-star rating. So even the food was good, but still I gave 1 star. Why? Because for me the waiter is the single point of contact for the restaurant, right? So that's why, though, that is called as controller. So controller is a single point of contact for the backend is controllers. The client will send the request. That request will come to the, and controller will it process, will it apply the entire business logic itself, or will it give it further to the further layers? And if the further layers require some data from the database, they will get it, right? Okay, so JDBC part they can take care. So there are many layers over here. Okay, so when you will do real time, no, there will be many layers over here. After the controller, there will be many layers over here. There is one dedicated layer which interacts with the database. One dedicated layer which applies the business logic. This all we will study when we go further deeper in the topic of MVC. So now, so in a fresh tab, now write whatever we have discussed about the understanding of MVC, what you understand. What is model, what is view, what is controller, what you have understood. Come on, type that. Type everything. What you are saying, type. Don't give this arrows just because we want to go prompt this to Chat GPT, and then we'll ask Chat GPT rate my understanding of MVC on a scale of 5. So we are preparing a prompt for Chat GPT. So say like this. Okay, so write the paragraph in a way that will prompt Chat GPT. Don't give colon, just directly send the data from when. Yeah, yeah. एक मिनट को मैं पढ़ता हूँ ठीक है. Model view controller. Model are the classes whose objects are sent from the view to the controller. The data in the request is the model object. The data in the response is the model object. View is enter करो. View is the client side presentation layer. लाइन नंबर 4 के बाद एंटर करो. 4 के बाद view is the client side presentation layer. It is a HTML or JSP file to accept the data from the customer and to reflect the response sent from the controller. Enter. Controller is a part of the server side programming. It is a single point of contact for the client. Whatever request the client send is received by the controller. The controller passes this data received to the subsequent server side layers for processing. ओके अभी क्या करता है ये कंट्रोलर, थोड़ा बहुत वो कर लेता है, वैलिडेशन कर लेता है ताकि जो बिजनेस लॉजिक लगे वो प्रॉपर डेटा पे लगे ना. ओके सो वहाँ लिख सकते हैं द लाइन नंबर 13 के एंड पे लिखो द कंट्रोलर ऑल्सो डज सम टास्क सच एज वैलिडेशन. ठीक है इतना कर लो. ओके so controller passes the data to shift to the subsequent okay. the controller is a part of the server-side programming. It is the single point of contact for the client. Whatever request the client send is received by the controller. The controller passes the data received to the subsequent server-side layers for processing. The layers after processing apply business logic, return the data to the controller, which returns it back to the view. The controller also does some tasks like validation. Okay, ठीक है. So control A, control C, control V करके chat GPT पे डालो और बोलो rate my understanding of Spring MVC for a fresher. देखते कितना देता है वो. 4 मिला तो ठीक है, ठीक ठीक चल रहे हैं हम लोग. और सजेस्ट कर देगा. रेट माई अंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं, फिर कमेंट में छोड़ो, समझ जाता है वो. रेट माई अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ MVC एज अ फ्रेशर आउट ऑफ 5. ठीक है, चलो देखते हैं क्या देता है या कुछ इम्प्रूवमेंट एरियाज बताता है तो. ओ माय माय, दिखाओ क्या बोल रहा है वो. For a fresher, your understanding of MVC is good, but it needs bit more clarity and correction in certain areas. Okay, let me point out the strength and weaknesses. What explained well, model से explain किया अपन ने. You understood it about data being passed between layers. ये भी सही था. View, correct, that is the presentation layer, JSP HTML. Controller, correctly stated, it is the entry point and handle the request and response. Flow understanding, you know client, controllers, model, service, view. Good foundation. ये थोड़ा ठीक था. अब वो क्या बोल रहा है आगे, व्हाट नीड्स करेक्शन. अभी मॉडल इज नॉट ओनली ऑब्जेक्ट सेंट फ्रॉम व्यू, इट प्रेजेंट्स डेटा प्लस बिजनेस लॉजिक आफ्टर पोजोज और एंटिटीज. ये हम आगे देखेंगे पोजो क्या होती है. ठीक है. कंट्रोलर, इट शुड नॉट कंटेन बिजनेस लॉजिक. हाँ लिखा है ना, हमने बोला था ना, इट डज नॉट कंटेन बिजनेस लॉजिक, राइट. तो ये क्यों बता रहा है. ठीक है, ये तो अपन ने बोला है ओनली रिक्वेस्ट हैंडलिंग वैलिडेशन राउटिंग टू सर्विस लेयर, है ना. सर्विस लेयर इज द नेक्स्ट लेयर आफ्टर 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 कंट्रोलर. जो नेक्स्ट लेयर है ना वो कौन सा है. तो वो तो अब आगे आने वाला था. और रोल का काम क्या है, शुड ओनली डिस्प्ले डेटा नॉट हैंडल लॉजिक, है ना. ओके, वो क्या बोल रहा है, मॉडल कंट्रोलर भी क्रिएट करके भेज सकता है. यानी अगर कोई रिक्वेस्ट नहीं आई है और सिर्फ रिस्पॉन्स भेजना है तो वो भी कर सकता है. ठीक है. और इम्प्रूव वर्जन क्या है, तो ये तो अपन ने डिस्कस किए थे ना ऊपर, पॉइंट नंबर 2 और 3. तो वो उसमें रिमार्क क्यों डाला उसने. ठीक है. सो इम्प्रूव वर्जन ऑफ सिंपल वर्डिंग इज होल्ड्स डेटा एंड बिजनेस लॉजिक. तो ठीक है. और UI टू डिस्प्ले एंड टेक इनपुट एंड कंट्रोलर रिसीव रिक्वेस्ट. ठीक है. चलो, नॉट बैड. सब मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग अबाउट मॉडल स्कोप विल लिटिल पॉलिशिंग यू कैन रीच 4.5. इसलिए 2 तो आपने गलत ही मार्क दिया है उसमें. ठीक है. तो फ्री वाले मॉडल्स इतने रिलायबल नहीं हैं चैट GPT वाले. ठीक है. स्टॉप शेयरिंग. गॉट इट. सो उसके बाद वो जो लेयर आता है ना सेकंड, जिसको कंट्रोलर भेजता है, हमने बोला सब्सिक्वेंट लेयर. उसके तो वो सब्सिक्वेंट लेयर में ये जो लेयर कौन सा है, ये सर्विस पूरा बिजनेस लॉजिक अप्लाई करता है. उसका जितना भी बिजनेस लॉजिक है वो कहाँ लगता है, सर्विस लेयर. और अगर सर्विस लेयर को कुछ डेटा लगा, जैसे जो शेफ को कुछ रॉ मटेरियल लगा, तो वो जो स्टोर होता है ना, स्टोर कीपर भेजेगा. तो स्टोर कीपर रिपोजिटरी बोलते हैं. क्या बोलते हैं उसको, रिपोजिटरी लेयर का काम है डेटाबेस से कम्युनिकेट करना. तो ये पूरा ऐसा एक चेन बनता है. दिस बिकम्स द एंटायर चेन. दिस इज आर्किटेक्चर. सो लाइक दिस. So now if the service layer requires some information, some data for processing from the database, it will communicate with whom? repository communicates with the database and then gives it to the service. Then service once complete gives to the controller, then controller returns the response back. Okay.
Yes.
So this is called as MVC model.